Hi, friends. Welcome to Getting Your Real Estate Life Together. I'm Tracy Hicks with All Things Real Estate. And today I'm super excited. I've been asking these guys to come on the podcast for a while. Keeley and Fred from Fred Real Estate are here. Welcome, you guys.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us.
I'm excited because, okay, so when I asked them to come on, Keeley was like, okay, but we're not really realtors and we're broker owners. And I'm like, girl, that is what people want to hear about. They want to hear about other ways of running their businesses or how husband and wife teams. That's always interesting. I'm sure there's stories. So that's the kind of stuff that I think that it sounds outside the box, but it's not, because obviously anything goes in real estate. And when we were chatting a minute ago, you told me that you guys started in the middle of the recession in the 2000s. Let's start there. Tell me your story. I want to know from the beginning, how did this happen? Where did the idea come from? Was Fred already a realtor? Like, give me the details.
Ah,
If we go all the way back in about 2001, I was laid off from my company because of the September 11th attacks.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was actually in Dallas, Texas, getting ready to board a plane back to Portland and found out that our investors had pulled out of the company that I worked for. So I had to rent a Buick Skylark and drive back to Portland. And at that time, our investors pulled out and I was out of a job. So I
Wow.
remember one night, Keely and I and my sister were sitting around her little outdoor fire pit, and we kind of were having the conversation about what is next. And I'd always been interested in real estate. So, and I also grew up in a very, I guess, entrepreneurial sort of mindset. That was the way that our dad raised us.
Nice.
You know, one of his sayings was before he passed away was, "You'll never get rich working by the hour." And his last thing that he ever told me before he passed away was, "Son, go out and give them hell." And that was his way of giving me a message of like, don't just settle for, the typical way of doing life. And so I decided to get my real estate license. I started off with Coldwell Banker in Clackamas, and I was there for about 2.5 years or so. Moved over to Keller Williams, and Keller Williams was a new thing in Portland,
Oh, wow.
and ended up running a large team out of their Clackamas office for a few years. And Keely and I had always had the draw to move to Bend. We had young twin boys at the time. Business was booming in the Portland area, but we would come here on long weekends and we would drive around and we would just ask each other, how do we do it? How do we get to Bend, Oregon?
Right.
And in '08, we'd come here for these long weekends. And of course, '08 was '08. I ended up applying for, well, actually, Keely ended up sending in my resume for me. I didn't really know she'd done that, but sent my resume in to be the team leader of the old Keller Williams office that was here previously in Bend. So I interviewed for the position, actually got the job. And so here we were now packing up our house in Happy Valley and moving to Bend, Oregon with
Wow.
our then 4-year-old twin boys. So became the team leader of KW for a short while, and it just didn't feel right. I knew that in my heart, I wasn't wired for corporate America. It wasn't the right position for me. It was 2008 and the market was having its issues.
Yep.
And I vividly remember her coming in one day for lunch, and I said, it's time to branch off and do our own thing. And she said, okay, let's do this. And I said, well, what should we name the company? She said, let's name it Fred Real Estate Group. And I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. And so we branched off on our own with the full kind of intention of it just being the two of us. And we also had a business partner in Portland that was going to hang his license with us because we still had quite a bit of activity happening over the mountain. And
Yeah.
so we would refer stuff to him and just have maybe this 2 or 3 or 4 person small brokerage. And at that time, the market was doing what it was doing. So several of those brokers that I was previously with reached out and said, hey, can we come hang our license with you guys? Because we're needing to make a move. So back in '08, we kind of became Insta Company. We had a 152 square foot office space here in Northwest Crossing, which is about the size of this conference room we're in. And now we had these brokers that were joining our team, and we had to figure out, okay, we're now a real estate brokerage, so what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
So fast forward to now 2020, and we are currently the largest independent brokerage in all of Central Oregon with about 145
Yeah.
full-time brokers.
I did not know that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
We currently rank number 2 in sales and volume in over 260 brokerages area wide. This office itself will do a little over 500 million in sales this year.
Wow.
And our model is different. It is not a corporate mindset or structure. You do not see suits and ties. This is about as fancy as we get. In summertime, we wear the shorts and flip-flops. In the winter, we are Patagonia coats and baseball caps.
Yeah.
That's what Bend is. And so, anytime we are interviewing a broker that wants to join us, we tell them that, if you're looking for more of a corporate mindset, more of a traditional type model with the private office space, the suits and ties, the big box style company, we are not that.
Not that. Yeah.
Our most important thing at this brokerage is our culture. We do not hire brokers for their numbers or their quotas. It's nothing about sales-based hiring here. It's all about culture and family-oriented vibe, high morals, high standards, actually answering your phone if it rings.
Yep.
But it's worked here. It's generated a lot of momentum for us. It works for some, it doesn't work for others.
Yeah.
And we're super happy. So
yeah, and I say it all the time that, realtors, especially when they get into the business, or maybe, they're new, or whatever, but they're trying to figure out where and how they fit into it. And real estate is so full of information. It's like, I always say, it's like being pregnant and everybody wants to give you their opinion. It's like, so, and the one thing that it always comes back to is being who you are, staying true to who you are. Do the stuff that you're good at. Don't try to do stuff that other people are telling you to do if it doesn't feel right, or if it's not working, or you don't like it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it well. So why not just be yourself? So Keeley, you and I, you're the marketing side of things, and that's what you love to do. And that's what I love to do. I love the realtors and the realtoring, but the whole reason why I started this company was because I loved realtors more than I loved realtoring. So, that sense of community and the culture that you guys have created there, it's such a blend of the two of you. And that's why I love your company. I've been following you guys forever, and you've been customers of ours and all that good stuff. But when I was realtoring way back when, I'd see your signs up here in Portland and knew who you were and connected. So Keeley, what kind of is your role in the company, and kind of how do you marry everything and make it all happen?
Well, I'm not a licensed realtor. I never have had interest in that because, like you said, like the marketing side of things, I'm such a creative person that it was just the perfect outlet for me because, Fred was the realtor of the family and he could drive that side of things. And let me be clear here. When we started this company, I have got zero formal training in marketing. I didn't go to school for it. YouTube wasn't really a thing back then, but I didn't take a tutorial. And I really, over the years, figured it out, right? So it's kind of to your point of what feels good and what doesn't feel good. I just kind of do what feels good to me and what I believe would be
drawn to.
Think fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, just never straying from who we are. We're not trying to be anything else other than what we are. And, we're not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think people are drawn to authenticity. I think you can really see through sort of that fake, I'm trying to be like this. If I'm like this person, I'm going to be successful too. And I think that's so false. I think that just you do you, right? And people are going to be drawn to that. So from a marketing side of things, and you asked me the question, what do I do here? Well, I do a lot. I wear many hats. Everything that's non-real estate related,
is you
do.
Yep.
But primarily my first love and what I do mostly with my time is the brokerage level social media and sort of limited design services. So we believe that our team should be self-sufficient in the sense that they should add their own flair and style to their work, right? Yep. It's their business that they're building, but we're kind of that foundational umbrella. Is that even a term? I just made that up.
Totally is.
Foundational umbrella. There we go. We like to offer really great digital pieces or print pieces or even social media things for our team that they can take, make their own and run with it. So for me, like I said, most of the time I'm glued to a screen and I'm, creating content, or I'm mapping out my social media calendar, or that type of thing. So that's been my role that I've kind of just carved out over the years. When we started in '08, like Fred said, we had young twins. And so I was basically full-time mom, and I had just come from a few years at a Portland area public relations company based in Lake Oswego. And thank goodness that I was able to have that experience, because it directly came here. And the company that I worked with, I left. It was at that time a really small agency. They've since grown and they're doing awesome. But at that time, we had that open floor plan, that you would equate with any sort of tech company today. Just collaborative and colorful and vibrant. And you go in and it was this hub. And so we knew when we started this, we wanted that. I think there's so much power in working together. And I think here we believe that no one has to lose for you to win. And why wouldn't you work together? I mean, we all have something to learn. None of us know everything. Right. So let's just kind of put that to good use. Our office is very much like what sort of I grew up in, if you will, my professional life. Yeah. It's open and it's colorful and it's vibrant, and it really is what we call our hub. And I know pre-pandemic, it was a little more active than it is today, obviously, but it's just, there's something so awesome about coming into a space that has a good energy. And I think, like, I wouldn't even know how to function in a negative space, like it would just kill my creativity, which is my job. Totally. So the one thing that we hear a lot when we're meeting with new brokers and talking with them and, sort of the interview side of things, the first thing that most people say when they come through the doors is, wow, it just feels so welcoming here. Yep. And we almost like virtually high five each other, because we're like, yeah, we want you to feel welcome, whether we end up being a fit for you as a broker or not. But in our community, it's a small community still, which we love. And I think that we should all just, like you said, if they work with us or if they don't, we're going to see them in the community. So let's just all work together and be welcoming and just kind of be professional. So and that's a long-winded answer.
But exactly what you're saying, and being business owners, you want like-minded people as well. And just like you said, there's somewhere for everyone, and you don't want everyone either. Right. And vice versa. I think that, but you being who you are, it's not like you're trying hard to make a welcoming area. It's just you guys. It's who, and that's a direct reflection in the company culture. And I think that has finally, real estate was never really, I guess people do decide which brokerage they want to go to based on, how they feel when they go in. But back in the day, a lot of it was like at Keller Williams, they had a lot of information and education, and there were other reasons for going into a brokerage. And now I think the shift is, especially with some of the smaller boutique offices where you do get that small family feeling and that company culture, where now it is, you pick a place to work where you feel good, because if you feel good about where you're at, then everything else is just going to come easier and naturally. You're going to be able to ask questions without feeling like you would be stupid if you asked a question, or, that kind of stuff. And that all ties into company culture. And I think it's I guess it's a buzzword these days, but I think it's always been the case, but we've exploited it. And it's okay to be that. It's okay to be yourself, and, and not be that, here's what the multi-million-dollar producers do, and you should do this too. And that, maybe pick one thing out of that and that works for you, but you don't have to be that guy. You can do the same numbers if that's what you want, but you don't have to do exactly what they're doing. And what you guys are doing, and how you translate that tells people that without having to tell people that.
And actually, kind of piggybacking on that, that's one of the reasons we do not do formal awards here at this brokerage. You know how a lot of traditional brokerages will hand out awards to their top producers. Yeah. We don't believe in that. We have obviously some great producers that sell a ton of properties, and we have some newer brokers that are starting to get on their feet. And, based on their 12-month goals, when they reach those goals, they're a top producer in their own right. So why would we only reward the top 10 brokers at the office because they sold the most homes? It's never about quotas here and who sells the most. Yeah. Because we believe that collaboration is our number one most important thing here. If a new broker here, or even a seasoned broker here, asks a question on our internal intranet site, they'll get 80 responses from brokers.
That's
And I can
awesome.
honestly say, I don't know if you would feel that at some of the big box companies, just that collaboration, because this can be a very lonely business. You know, if you're just an independent single broker trying to find the motivation to go out every day and build a business,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard. You got to find the motivation. You got to find the energy. You got to find what am I actually doing? What am I supposed to go do?
Yeah.
And so that's why our office, kind of our hub, it's super important to keep a high pulse of a high frequency here. So when brokers do stroll in, they're greeted. They're like, "Hey, so and so, it's nice to see you. Long time no see." And
Yeah.
everybody's got each other's backs in this office. And I think that's one of the most, I guess, important secret ingredients as to why we are as successful as we are.
Well, it's even, Tracey, kind of how you, I loved your reaction when we told you how many brokers we have here in Central Oregon. Because, well, it still shocks me when I hear that number too, because it's like, wow, that's a thing that we grew. Okay, cool. But it's so important to us that no matter how large we become, that we retain the core of who we are and that we are Fred Real Estate Group, right? Like that never changes. And it's really interesting to hear people's opinions on the size of a brokerage. You know, we've sat with people, you know, newer agents or maybe those that have been in the business for a while in interview situations. And they say, well, tell me why I should join your company because you're so big. I'm just going to be a number and I'm just a dollar sign. And how am I going to feel connected, or who do I go to for help? And we just kind of look at each other and we're like, duh, silly, it's us. You know, like we got you. Like it's so important that every single person that walks through the door and is a part of our team knows that they're a valuable part of our team. Because everyone's different. Everyone has their own style and their own contributions to bring and challenges that we can help with. So it's like this incredible, awesome thing that we have found people. And I think it's that whole vibe attraction tribe thing, right? Like just you're attracted to like-minded people. Like we have that here. And it's such a cool energy that you can't even tangibly put into words. But I think that it's interesting people's perceptions. And, you know, because, you know, this person raised their hand. I want to own my own business. I want to be in real estate. I'm going to build my own business, but I need a brokerage to sort of have my back. So, you know, where do I do that? How do I do that? And so when you kind of break it down, it's not about the brokerage. It's always about you, the individual, and the put in. We've just got your back to help you get that work done. And so we could be 300 agents strong and still have that same vibe, you know? So it's really just super special. We're so grateful.
Yeah. And I think also too, exactly what Fred, you were talking about as being an entrepreneur and your dad talking about that. All realtors are entrepreneurs. They all own their mini businesses, and most agents that, you know, you're running your brokerage the same way. And that is another layer of why people feel at home when they come in there, because you're going through it too. You know, started this business, they're starting their business. It looks different, but it's the same thing. And you've been through that. And I think that, you know, most realtors, and that's what I love too about the camaraderie, and that agents should be talking to each other and not being in competition with each other. I'm a huge proponent. I'm constantly like, you're the community. You are the face of real estate. What your brokers are doing in Bend are what people are seeing in Portland. And so it's the same thing. It's like, we all have a responsibility to let people know how hard it is to be a realtor, and that it is a lot of work, and that you're not just looking at cute houses and collecting checks.
Driving the Benz.
Right. But we all have a responsibility for each other. Like, you know, how I present myself as a realtor is going to affect how, you know, if somebody's moving to Bend and I've given them this perception in Portland, they're going to take that with them. And that carries over to California and Texas. I mean, just us as a realtor community, we're all in this together. And so I think that all of that is important. And I love that you said that, you know, if an agent has a question, they're all chiming in to help that realtor, because it's so lonely. Just even getting that kind of response that's half the battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like you said, like there's so much on social, like that glorifies the life of a real estate broker, right? Which is so cool. And I'm so happy for all of those people. Yeah. But the reality is, and can be, as you say, lonely.
Yep.
It's a lot of, sleepless nights and emotional roller coasters and hard work, and all of those things, equate to awesomeness if you do it right. Essentially, if you just hang in there and just take each day, but being honest about the fact that, you are going to have to show up every day. And sometimes you don't feel like it because you're stressed and there's a lot going on. But if you have a good network and you have a support system, it's going to be a little easier, but there's still work involved. And I think that that's maybe a key piece of the puzzle that sometimes is overlooked is no matter where you are brokerage wide or, wherever you pick to work, you're still going to have to put in the work. And you get out what you put in, right? For anything, for any business. And I think that's kind of what we stress to some of the newer brokers that come in and talk with us is, we can give you all the tech and all the tools and all the shiny things, but ultimately
gotta do it.
We can't teach work ethic. We can't teach integrity. We can't teach those core things. And if you don't have those things, then we are not a fit for you.
Right.
And add on top of that, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're also in the middle of a very competitive real estate market, so that even when brokers do get their business up and rolling and they finally get a client or two, they're showing houses that have 10, 15, 20 offers on them. And it can be a very frustrating process, not for the real estate brokers, but also for the buyers and sellers as well.
Yeah.
Because when you're showing buyers properties and they find the perfect house and they don't get it, and they're out driving around all weekend, and we've had a lot of buyers say, I just don't want to do this right now. I can't deal with what's going on in the market. So there's added layers of just stuff going on with real estate and just the industry as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so important that you're wherever you're at in your brokerage and how you feel about it is key, because it always comes back to that. So as long it's about the foundation, right? It's just like a house, if the foundation is there, even though you're going to have struggles and troubles and ups and downs, what your values are. That's not going to change. They know who their brokerage is. That's not going to change. And they need that. People need that, especially right now. Everybody needs that, something to hold on to.
Well,
we've heard some horror stories when we've been interviewing brokers and they're coming from other brokerages and they say, I just can't get in touch with my managing broker or the office manager. No one responds to me. That actually makes my hair turn more gray than it looks in this camera right now. Because I couldn't imagine a situation where one of our brokers was trying to get a hold of me and they couldn't. And then I left them basically hanging out on this island of unknown land when they're in a situation where they're writing an offer and now they're winging it. Because that now puts them and us and their buyers in a weird predicament if they forget to put language in that offer about maybe they need a contribution towards closing costs or whatever the different thing. And now, 2 weeks into a transaction, that broker says, oh, I forgot to put that in there. And it falls back on me because I didn't answer my phone or get back to that broker when they were calling. Right. I just don't understand that sort of mindset that some of these brokerages have where they just disappear from their brokers. It's super for me. I am the managing broker here. And so it's super important for me that when our brokers call, I either answer my phone or I get back to them within an hour because I know they're in a situation. They're not just calling to say, hey, Fred, how's it going? They're calling because they're in a situation they need help with. And so,
and I just think it goes back to the whole core of being a human being, right? Like we all want to feel connected, part of something, and we want to feel valued and heard. Like it's so simple. And if you get that right, everything else just falls into place. I mean, it's really not rocket science.
Totally. Yeah. And just like us as a business, we're in the business to make you guys do well in business. The better realtors are doing, the better we're doing. And so we're constantly in our marketing, we're just constantly trying to help them, with ideas and marketing and all of this kind of stuff. And there have been times where we're like, as a new company, it's like, oh, well, maybe we should also do this and then this. And then we always end up coming back to who we are and who, the reason why this company was built. And so now, and it took a while, when we were a baby business just 5 years ago, it was really easy to be like, especially as realtors and entrepreneurs, you're like, oh, shiny object, I should be doing that too. And then you're trying to do all the things and then nothing's working because you're doing too much. But what we found is we constantly kept coming back to it. So now I recognize that quicker So I'm not wasting all my time. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick to who I am and what my reason why I started this company. And I think once you figure that out in your business, it just like you said, Keeley, everything falls into place. And that is really, really important. We used to say that about like back in the day when you could have your own logo, and like that wasn't a thing before, where you were like, you had to use Remax or Keller.
Yeah.
And then all these boutique offices started popping up and letting realtors do their own marketing or their own logo, and they, you know, that kind of stuff. And it always comes back to the realtor. Like most people don't, unless you're a listing agent or unless you have a listing client, most people don't even know where you work. They just want you as an agent.
Yeah.
And so by you saying that earlier, where you let agents brand, you know, or take your marketing stuff, but let them personalize it to them as a realtor, that stuff is really important for realtors, and that's what they want. And that comes straight out of your value of being an entrepreneur and understanding that and being broker owners, and that kind of stuff is so important in our business. And I think we forget that kind of stuff, but it always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
We
say that there's some famous person somewhere said the hardest thing in business is to keep things simple. I think it was like Richard Branson. Anyway, don't kill me. But the point is the message is clear, right? And so you're right. Like there is that shiny new object syndrome that's so rampant in real estate, and I'm sure other industries too, but it's so like, you know, what tech's going to save me from doing this, or what tool can I sign up for but never use? Like it's, you know, that's totally fine if that's your thing. But quite honestly, here we have stripped back everything to be super simple and, but like effective, right? So we have core tech that we offer and core tools. And if you want more than that, that is so great. You should do that. But as a brokerage, like we don't want to confuse you. We don't want you to sit here and, you know, be doing hours of webinars to learn how to use something or how to do something. It's more effective for your time to be able to use the tools provided so you can do your job, which is, you know, be a great realtor. You know, so for us, like keeping it simple, it's kind of been our mantra unofficially over the years. And kind of to your point too, we had to learn the hard way because we were like a baby business too. And I still feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, we tried this, we tried that, we tried many things that worked and some that didn't, and some that were way too confusing for everyone. But we had to learn that.
Yeah.
And once you find things that work, triple down on that.
Yep.
It's kind of like the In-N-Out burger model. You know, when you go to In-N-Out and you walk up, they've got 2 or 3 burgers to choose from, French fries, and you can choose a milkshake if you want, or a Diet Coke. And that is it. They don't have tacos and chicken nuggets and hot dogs and breakfast items and all that. And what do we see at every single In-N-Out burger? A line out the door for 3 hours.
Yep.
They're all drawn there because the product is good. It's simple. You know what you're going to get. It's affordable. And they back it up with really awesome service. So, you know, it's kind of that same thing.
I'm hungry now.
I don't know. It's going to hurt.
No, but it's true. And I mean, realtors get bombarded with so much information and CRMs. Like, it drives me crazy. Realtors are famous for asking for recommendations all the time, right? There's Facebook groups for us, and there's Facebook itself and that kind of stuff. And the second you're like, okay, what CRM do you use? And then you get 30 answers. You're like, okay. And then what do? You don't use a CRM. You're just overwhelmed and you don't do it.
Right.
And I hear a lot of realtors that are like, and that was the biggest mistake that I made getting into real estate. And I've been a realtor for 17 years. I'm not practicing anymore, of course, but I didn't start a CRM. I didn't even do a Google sheet. But if somebody would have told me that I didn't need a CRM, that I could use a Google sheet or an Excel or whatever, I probably would have done it because it was so much simpler to just do that.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff and keeping it simple, realtors don't need any more in their brain and, you know, what's going on. They need that. It helps them.
Then they spend their entire day just trying to figure out all of these different tech products, and they're not actually out there networking and generating business for themselves. They're trying to figure out, oh, we just launched this new lead generation product. Now I've got to learn all the ins and outs of that. And most likely they won't even use it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you guys use internally? Like, do you guys have a couple of systems that you use? How do you run your business?
Such a great question. Well, you know, we have a website. We run Boomtown here, have used that for years and years. we don't maybe use it in the traditional sense because that's kind of our thing. We're not, if it's the traditional way of doing things, we're not doing that. I'm kind of a little bit of a tech nerd, so I always like to kind of see what's out there. But honestly, we have used Boomtown for like 8 years as a CRM, but also as a front, consumer facing website. It's awesome. We're so proud to work with them. Like, they've evolved their product over the years. So why would we go anywhere else? We have all the core stuff like DocuSign and all of those things too. And we also have like a mobile app. Consumers drive change, right? So like if you don't have an app anymore, I don't know. I just think it's a nice thing to have. And then we honestly, kind of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again,
and we have other little tech tools, internally that we use, but we don't use Slack. We don't use any of that cool tech stuff. We're old-fashioned emailers.
Yep.
We have actually a couple of Facebook groups internally for our team. So we have one specific to our newer brokers, like new to us, new to real estate, kind of just an organically driven conversational tool for the team to kind of have that network. And then we also have the wider group for the whole company.
Yeah.
Just, we all love Facebook groups, right? So that's kind of been a really effective tool, especially during this pandemic.
Right.
If Facebook got that right, I will say, they got the group thing right. Honestly, that's kind of it. We offer, like I said, some real basic stuff here in terms of simple offerings here to keep it really effective.
Well, and because this is such a people business, we don't think that brokers need to be hiding behind their tech.
Yeah.
So some of those products out there that send out automation or they speak in your voice, on Facebook, they do automatic Facebook posts. That actually makes me cringe because I will see brokers from other brokerages post things on Facebook and it's exactly identical to the other broker from the same brokerage.
Right.
They're just pushing a button or they have something set up on their calendar that this random post is going to go out on October 30th. The next one's going to go 2 weeks from there. But as consumers, you can read right through that because it's not in their voice. It's this generic crap, in my opinion.
Yep.
And they're not putting any effort behind it. It's kind of no different than sending out a generic postcard out and you're farming an area and you're just using some generic messaging on stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime our brokers do farming of neighborhoods, I try to pound into their brain, do something that stands out amongst the crowd because most likely the consumer that walks out to that mailbox is going to get your messaging plus 3 or 4 other brokers messaging about the same thing. And I guarantee you right now, if the 3 of us were sitting in our conference room right now and we were to lay out 3 or 4 or 5 postcards that were in our mailboxes right now from realtors, they'd all kind of be the same.
Yeah.
They'd be something about, what is my home worth? What is my home worth? Or
just
basically,
sold.
I'm just sold, or I'm the best realtor in town, or here's why.
Here's a big picture of me.
Yep.
Yeah. And a big picture of me from 30 years ago. They don't even update their photos.
Right.
So it's those little things that as a brokerage owner, I've been doing this long enough, I think real estate brokers get too set in the generic sheep in a herd, sort of doing the same thing, either because they don't want to come up with their own messaging and be creative and stand out amongst the crowd, or they're being lazy and they don't want to put the work in.
Right. Or maybe they don't know how.
Or they don't know how.
Yeah.
Or it's easy just to dial up, 1-800 postcards or whatever and get on their list for $19.95 a month and have them do the work because they just don't want to do the work. So
yeah. And then you're wasting $19.95 a month.
Right. Oh, I am doing this cool thing because I spend money on it. So it's obviously something that I'm doing, which no.
Right. The more effort you put into something, the more you're going to get back out of it. It's just the bottom line. It doesn't mean you have to do 5 things. Just start with one thing.
Yes.
Do it really well. Get a system down that works for you. Be
consistent with it.
Consistent. And then move on
to social media, right? People think they have to be everywhere and I've got to keep up with YouTube and I've got to do Instagram and I've got to do Reels and, all the things. And like, that's so false. Like you said, just pick one thing and just really do that well. Yep. Master that, if that's even a thing, and then do something else or not. It's so easy to just get overwhelmed when you don't have to.
And end up spending a lot of unnecessary money when you're not getting an ROI on some of these marketing activities that you're doing. Like right now, if you want to go farm a random neighborhood and send postcards out to 300 homes, well, you better be prepared to be in that for the long haul of 6 months or a year, every single month at, $2 a postcard. So if you're doing 300 homes, be prepared to spend $600 a month. And the problem is that the majority of brokers will send out one blast to a neighborhood because they think their phone's going to ring off the hook. And it doesn't because it's so overly saturated and their messaging is no different than everybody else.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's, again, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I definitely want to talk about how and what it's like to be, because there's so many married couples in real estate, teams, whatever you want to call it, and the boys. Like, how do you balance all of that work life? Does it just blur? Does it not? Like, how is it working for you guys?
Well, I'll start. Can I start that one off?
I would love
I would just admit that I got extremely lucky about 23 years ago when I met her, because when this all kind of came together, it was just kind of an act of the universe or whatever. But when we started this business together, I believe you have to be kind of the yin and the yang to have a successful partnership.
Yep.
You know, we are literally joined at the hip pretty much 24 hours out of the day. And we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary a couple months ago.
Congrats.
And we still like each other. Like, I don't know if I can speak for you, but she's like the only person I want to hang out with on the planet. So, you know, and of course we've had our differences like any married couple has, you know, with raising the boys and just the stresses that go on with families and things. But if I were going to build a super team right now of like one or two people, and I had to like draft like a fantasy football draft right now, I would take her all day long, because she brings such a wealth of just creativity and knowledge and spirit and energy and realism, if that's even a word. Or, you know, she's such a genuine person and says it how it is.
Yep.
You know, and I'm more of the dreamer type with the ideas and things, and she has her way of pulling back the reins, saying, Fred, that's really a stupid idea. We're not going to do that. So,
I don't think I've ever, well, I mean,
I'm sure you thought in your head. So.
I don't know how to even put it into words, but we were supposed to meet, right? Like 23 years ago. And we are completely polar opposites in terms of how we approach situations, but also have that same common drive and work ethic and, you know, passion. So it kind of this weird thing that we've mastered over the years, I guess. Like, Fred is the most calm person you're ever going to meet ever. Like, he is so chill. He's super wise. He brings a lot of just like calming energy to our home, but also to our business. I am not that person. I am so not that person. I am high strung. I have crazy anxiety. I have creative ideas. I am very blunt and honest. I could never play poker. I don't know how, but also my poker face is non-existent. You always know what I'm thinking.
Right.
She's also full-blooded British, so she has that blunt sort of personality.
I do not have my accent anymore, sadly, but it's true. There's no, I always say to Fred, it's like a black and white thing for me. There's never any gray area. Like, it's like one or the other. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems to work. I don't know. So far, so good. I mean, maybe don't ask our kids. I don't know. Maybe they're at home right now.
On the podcast next.
Right. Oh gosh. You know, I think you just, like you said, it's like with anything, you get out what you put in. And we work really, really hard on our business, but we also work really, really hard on our family.
Yeah.
Our family comes first, always. Business can wait. Like, but our family is everything. And I think our kids know that. Like, we have 3 boys, and they are actually just the greatest humans ever. You know, you get your family right, and it's like, it's all about your environment, right? Like, home, work, wherever you are, if your environment is right and it feels good to you, you're going to go out and do your best work and be the best you can in your life. I don't know.
That's also like, I don't mean to cut you off, but like hanging out with our boys is our top priority as well, because I remember vividly the day that we brought them home from Providence Milwaukee Hospital in our little Subaru Outback. And now our twins are pushing 17 years old with attitudes, and they drive their own cars, and they no longer think mom and dad are cool. So
right.
We have a 10-year-old son that's 10 years going on 17 because he mimics his older brothers. And so we know that this type of life, hanging out with them, and this kind of so-called flexibility that we have is not going to last forever, because in a year or two, when the 2 older ones decide to go off to college or whatever they're doing, our house is going to get very quiet, and it's going to, be a completely new chapter of our lives. And so we take our hanging out with them and us having a strong relationship super seriously, because it's going to change at some point, not a relationship.
Wow. Okay, good to know. I got that figured out.
No comment.
Moving swiftly on.
Right. No, it's totally true. And I've got older kids. I have a 21-year-old, a 26-year-old. They're both about to be 22 and 27 in a few months. But my son works with me, and so I get to see him often. My daughter doesn't live far, and so we, talk all the time. But that relationship is so important. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a conversation with him last night about, like, I'm an empty nester. And so, I can work a lot, but he was like, yeah, but you got to take time for yourself, mom. And and I was like, I know. And I was like, yeah, but I like to work. I love what I'm doing, which is super important. But we talked about when they were little and I worked, he was like, I remember there'd be times where you'd be like, they'd be like, mom, you were working too much or whatever. And I would take it as they were looking after me and not really telling me that, hey, spend more time with me. Because you get so entrenched, especially realtoring and entrepreneur and all that. So it totally changed my way of thinking. Obviously, I can't go back in time but I do have a good relationship with my kids, and being who you are and being authentic and all that good stuff is obviously a huge part of it. Your kids are a part of you, and the environment is a huge part of it. But I think that it's totally true. Your family has to come first, and then everything else. Because your business, obviously, you could sell it, you could go away, it could be, whatever.
Yeah.
Those kids aren't going anywhere ever.
Yeah, totally.
I remember a light bulb moment. One of the first times we took the twins were younger. They were like 7 years old, and we took them to Disneyland for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was just as excited. I felt like Clark Griswold, when they drive into Wally World for the first time, like they've driven across country.
Yeah. They made it. Be open.
Yeah. And I remember kind of getting the teared up feeling like, oh my God, we made it to Disneyland. I can't believe it. But I remember one of our sons asking us, Mom and Dad, are you going to have to work while we're here? Wow. And I remember that was a light bulb moment where I went, oh, wow, at 7 years old,
yep,
they see us always on our phones, on our laptops, doing things.
Yeah.
It just kind of reinforces that, I guess, mindset of family is always first. It's the most important thing. And there are times walking in to visit Miss Mickey Mouse, set the damn phone down.
Yeah.
Nothing is so pressing that, you need to take care of it right then and there, when this is the time to walk through the castle and see Mickey and Goofy and Donald Duck and all those guys. So.
Right. It's a balance, and it's a fine line, with a lot of things, but especially with that, where you want to show them work ethic, but at the same time, that whole superwoman and super dad, all that stuff, that's all BS. It's like, oh, I can have it all, or I can do it all. It's like, do what you can and what you can handle, and make sure that you're balancing it the best way you can in your family, whether that means for yourself, if you have kids, don't have kids. There's always balance in everything. And as realtors, we tend to fall off that balance beam a lot, because you're dealing with families and people and their life, and buying the house is a big deal. So you're taking on all those emotions as well. And so taking care of yourself as realtors that's the last thing that you do. And it might be a bottle of wine or whatever, but
right.
Instead of really looking at what is it that's stressing me out or giving me anxiety and that kind of stuff. And so, but you guys, the whole time you've been talking, the word that keeps coming to mind is balance. And I think you guys do such a great job at that. And I know social media, and people are like, oh, only the good stuff goes on social or whatever. And yeah, of course, everybody's life isn't perfect. It's not supposed to be, but I love that you guys talked about learning from mistakes, and that you have to make them, especially in a small business. And obviously that's scary as a realtor. You don't want to make a mistake on a transaction or something like that.
Right.
But Fred, you talking about being available to them is taking that pressure off of them, that them checking or unchecking a box is going to change, a transaction. Being able to call you and talk to you about that, or another agent in your,
right.
Another one of their people, and you guys have built that community and that environment that they can go to somebody else if they can't reach you right away or whatever.
Right.
Or even just talking to somebody before they go to their principal broker, there's that too. And whether you're a team of 5 or a team of 145, I think that building that type of community is really, really important. You guys have done it so well, and I just love watching, and all of, even just the social media, I'm like, oh, where are they hiking today? And we're in the city, and I'm like, I want to see all the cool, fun hikes and the mountains, and it's just so beautiful there. And you guys have such a great backdrop to your kids. Of course, when my daughter, she worked at a drive-through one time, and she would get people coming through oh, you're Tracey's daughter. She's like, oh, Facebook. Oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
But it's true. You're being authentic, and people being the person that you are at Facebook, and then you meet someone in person and you're like, oh, you're the same person. You're like, yep, that's me.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys have, again, done that really well. And the message that you put out there and all that good stuff. I think it's so awesome. I love you guys.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So tell us where people can find you and your social media and all that stuff. And did you say you were doing YouTube stuff?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we are. We have some videos up there. Yeah, so our primary social media profiles, I guess, would be Facebook and Instagram, just at Fred Real Estate. Same with YouTube. We're kind of everywhere, but that's where we focus the most. I think I'm super into Instagram right now. I don't know. I don't know, just where I'm at.
It's not Facebook and politics and
that's maybe what it is. I just like a good, cat video. No, I don't really.
Pictures is about all we can handle right now.
So that's where you can find us. We're just at Fred Real Estate, or our website is fredrealestate.com.
Perfect. Anything else you want to tell the world?
Gosh, there's so much to share. No, I just wanted to say thank you to you for having us on. I think as entrepreneurs, it's easy to kind of, like you said, just get your head down and you're working and you don't really look up a whole lot. And so having your reaction about the size of our brokerage is just like, it just kind of was me looking up today, right? Like, wow, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we have grown our team by 20 or so. And the point is, we're growing, we're just so grateful for, even though these times are crazy and scary for so many, like, we personally are so grateful that our family is good, our business is good, that we have an amazing community. It's beautiful, as you say. And talking to people like you just really reinvigorates just kind of what we do. Like, it's so fun to talk to people and just kind of get that creative conversation happening. And this is what I live for. It's just having these conversations and connections, because you never know when we're going to need a great testimonial prop or some advice from you guys. Like, it's just so fun to be able to talk to people like you. So thank you for your business. I do read all your blogs. Keep up with you too. So
thank you.
And I want to say thank you for just taking your time to do this with us. Yeah. We don't do this a whole lot. So some of the things we talked about reminds me just about kind of the community that all of us, all 145 of us, have built here. And we consider every single broker and staff member here an extended part of the family. And we've got each other's backs, and we know that they each have each other's backs. And it's special here. It's one of those things that, when we talk to someone like yourself and ask these questions, I've been sitting here going, wow, we truly have this special thing that all of us have created. All 145 of these brokers bought into the idea of joining a company called Fred Real Estate Group because they saw something that was different than a traditional real estate type model. And I'm super just grateful for just every day that Keeley and I get to experience with all of these people and all the business partners and friends and you and all of that type of stuff. So thank you.
Yeah. And you know what, you guys did that. You did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you built that company from the ground up, and it's really easy as business owners to forget that because of the day-to-day and all that good stuff. But it's important to take time to look back, and doing stuff like this really does same for me. This is my favorite part of the job that I don't get to do enough because I'm too busy working on the business. And so I think, this kind of stuff, but you guys deserve to look back at that, and you deserve an In-N-Out burger and a beer.
Yeah, we do. I know, right? I know.
Go buy yourselves a beer. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for being on. I'm really happy that we decided to do this. And you were so worried about, well, we're not really realtors. I'm like, no, that's not the point. Yes, you are. And you're there for your realtors, and you guys, you do an amazing job. So thanks for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.